Namaste, everybody. I hope I'm audible to everyone. Thank you for being here today. I welcome you this evening for a session on the learning loss and way forward. It is a pleasure to have you here with me today. Um, may I All right, so we are here to discuss a very pertinent topic that has, it's the need of the hour as educators. We're all at this juncture, at this time in the year, we are all worried, concerned about this academic year. We're all concerned as to, since this academic year is now. Could I please request everybody to mute the device so that when I speak, y'all can hear me clearly? Could you do that, please? Okay.
ദേഷ്യമൊന്നുമില്ല, സങ്കടമാണ്. അവർക്ക് എവിടെയെങ്കിലും പോവാണ്ട് പോകട്ടെ.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you for joining. I think we'll wait for about 2 minutes for everybody to settle down. All right. So as I was saying, we are here to discuss a very pertinent topic about at this juncture, when we're drawing close to the academic year 2021, and what a year it has been for all of us. As I speak for myself, it has been a roller coaster ride. It has been a year of new learnings, new understanding, a little bit of setback here and there, but then revivals were also there. We learned so many new things. We unlearned a lot many things. And in the journey, now that the academic year is closing, we need to reflect on what are the practices, what is the need of the hour, and how do we need to adapt ourselves to that. So we are going to do that here in the next 45 minutes or so. But I would take your permission, if you'd allow me a minute, I'll be sharing my screen here with you. And as I run through the slides, we will build up on the subject. And if you have been a part, I think you all are a part of the group, the WhatsApp group that I had formed. So soon after the session, I will be posting the handout in that group. So you can revisit, you can have a look at what we discussed today again, and it can be referred in the future. And I will also be sharing the link from where you can download your certificates of participation. So please allow me a minute as I share my screen with you. It's an extremely humble request from for everybody to please be keep your devices on mute. That will help the others to listen properly. All right. So before I begin, I would take a couple of minutes to introduce myself to you. My name is Parvani Dawar, and I am an extremely passionate early childhood educator. I love working with young children. I am extremely intrigued, and I just feel very, very loved and comfortable in the company of young children. And I'm extremely passionate about early childhood education. I have learned, I have studied from the Asian College of Teachers, that makes me an alumni there, where I studied pre-primary and primary teaching. I'm also certified by the CASH. This is a British Council for Awards in Care, Health and Education. I am the territory head of the Early Childhood Association of India, the Indore territory. Now, this Early Childhood Association is the only association in our country that works for the well-being and raising the level of the young children in our country. I'm a proud resource person for the All India Education Forum. So this is one badge which I have recently acquired, and I'm extremely grateful to Matthew sir. I don't know whether he's here in this session or not, but he's the one who, because of whom I'm here right now taking this session. So this gentleman is the founder of the All India Education Forum, and he has the one who has been motivating and inspiring many people. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here, and I proudly mention it wherever I get a chance to do so. At heart, I'm a storyteller, so I love telling stories. It's it's understandable because if you work with young children, stories is something you should have to do. So I have learned the art of storytelling from the Storytelling Education and Arts Indian Council. So that makes me a member there as well. I'm also an ambassador and an advisory member of the 100 community. Now, the 100 community is a global community where there are people, educators, educationists, many stakeholders from the education fraternity who work together to uplift and bring innovations. So my role there is to study the innovations that are submitted every year. We review those innovations that come to us, and then we kind of figure out how we can spread them so everybody gets a chance to use it effectively and it benefits our children worldwide. Most importantly, I am a proud mother of a daughter, and that's the picture of my daughter here. So that is one of my proudest, I would say, role which I play. Moving ahead, I think it's only fair that we kind of set the agenda. What is it that we are going to understand? What is it that we are going to discuss in the next 40 minutes you are here? We are here together. Uh, we are going to talk about the learning loss. So here we are essentially talking about the academic learning loss. Did it actually occur in the 2021 academic year? We educators have been in and out. Every day we are making new lessons. We are trying to achieve the objectives, the outcomes. We are trying to have children, students achieve their targets. So, since we are striving so hard, we have a new platform to work with. So, in this scenario, has the learning loss actually occurred? So, that is one that is one aspect we will be exploring. Next, we'll understand that what does it imply? What do we mean by the learning loss? And finally, once we have arrived at a conclusion that did it occur or not, what was it? So how do we move ahead? How do we combat this learning loss, whether it occurred or it didn't? Before I kind of move deep into this, I would like to run through a few newspaper clips which when I was researching the subject, these are the newspaper clips I came across. There were many reports that kind of directed me towards the fact that the learning loss was probably taking place somewhere. So, here is where a newspaper clip that says that because of the pandemic, because of the closure of schools, there has been an academic regression in our children. Another clip I found which says the early childhood sector, the children, the early years was the most hit because, as it is, the early childhood was never taken very profusely, very profoundly in our country. But thanks to the new education policy, now we are looking at it in a more retrospect, we are retrospecting its importance. Then finally, I came across a UNICEF report which said that about 24 crore Indian children are hit by the pandemic, and that is what has regressed them. It has taken them backwards. A back step has happened in their learning journeys. So, with evidences from all over the UNICEF, there's been a report by the Azim Premji Institute, the World Bank, World Economic Forum. There are many, many reports which are leading to the direction which says that yes, the learning loss has happened, and the Academic loss is what the focus is on, what we are talking right now. We'll discuss about uh, the entire web of what it is. So let's begin. Let's understand what the learning loss, what does it imply. So here you see in this image, I have, there's a box which says the current state and there's a box which says the desired state. So we as educators, we know that what is the current state in a classroom of our children where we have say 30 children in our class, we know what is their current state. Each educator, because that is what we do, we are so involved with our children, we are very specific, we know where each and every child stands. So we know that this is the current state of our children. We also know that what should be the desired stage, like what is it that they had to reach out to, because when we set out at the beginning of the year, that is what we had planned, and then the path was charted. We had planned that by the end of the academic year, these are the goals, these are the targets, these are the learning outcomes children would have achieved. But of course, there is a gap. There is a gap between the current state and desired state, which we educators, we teachers, we understand it very, very thoroughly, because we are the experts here. We know where children should be and where they are, and we are truthful of that matter. We are honest with ourselves, and we know why we need to be honest, because we need to plan further for our children based on the status quo. So, what is the status quo just now? This gap is what we have identified to be the learning loss. So, as per my understanding, as per my learnings, I have tried to divide this learning loss into 5 heads. So, when you try to understand what the loss is, broadly, I felt that it could be clubbed, it could be structured in under these 5 heads. The first one I have put down is the knowledge. So children have been given a lot of information during the past year, through various means and tools which we resorted to, we adapted. There was a loss of the retention of the knowledge. Children were not able to retain the information or the knowledge or the concepts which we were teaching them, we were discussing with them. The next I found is the skills. So, the skills in terms of whatever information, whatever knowledge, whatever concepts children learned, there were not enough opportunities for them to practice, to apply those skills. For example, if we did a lot of, maybe in the language, if we were doing comprehension, or if we were doing things like phonics or ability of the language comprehension, there were a few areas where we thought that probably enough opportunities children didn't get to practice those skills. So maybe writing the sentences, speaking orally, those skills, the opportunities to do so was lacking for our children. The next head is motivation. So, the joy of boarding the bus, sitting on the bus, chatting with your friends, coming to the school, meeting the teachers, your peers. That is what children look forward to in the school. That's what they're eager to come to the school and meet their friends, talk to their teachers, hug them, probably share meals or play in the play area and things like that. So that motivation factor was missing to learn, and hence it reflected on their learning. The fourth head I found was the environmental approach. So children are at home right now. They are with their parents, the grandparents, maybe some households, the siblings. They have extended family. So the environment doesn't support learning much, because there are many factors, especially the digital divide which we face in our country. There is also parents are not in a mindset where they can support the learning of the children. So many environmental concerns of the learning environment, which has kind of added or impacted the loss. Next is communication, so we've probably not been able to convey, or there is a gap between our communication with the children in terms of the teaching that we are doing, also in terms of what exactly are they expected to do. So there was a little bit of a miss there in terms of communicating our expectations from the children. Next, what I found is that, especially for the preschoolers and kindergarten, uh, Normally, in a typical year, in a normal academic year, it is said that children fall back on their math and reading skills during the summer months. So worldwide, it's a phenomenon which says that there's a summer slide that happens for children, the kindergarten and the preschoolers. Why? Because, the summer holidays takes them away from the learning, and children at this age require a lot of repetition. They require a lot of reinforcement. So because of that gap, the summer slide or the loss or the decline in these skills happen. Now, to add to that, in the current scenario of the pandemic, of course, considering the summers, there was a slide that it's called a COVID slide. The experts have named it as a COVID slide. So the loss is said to be much steeper now. In addition to the basic foundational skills of language and math, literacy, there is also a lack in their social and emotional development, their motor, gross motor, fine motor development, their cognitive development. So it has been felt that that loss has also kind of combined with the basic uh, math and reading skills, the foundation literacies, which comes into it's important, and it plays a very important role in building the capacities, their capabilities in the years to come. This picture, this image, if you see here, it talks about the primary and the upper primary. Now, this is what I have found from the Azim Premji. They have done very extensive research on the learning loss, and this is how class-wise they have very, very minutely segregated that what exactly is the loss that has occurred during the children. And it was a very extensive research. It was done pan-India, and there were about 10,000 children who participated in this, which ran across 4 to 5 states in the country. And they felt that, it is not only the ability to speak, the oral ability, but in mathematics, for example, children have lost the ability to perform simple mathematical operations, maybe inferring data. So these kind of concepts have been lost. In language, there are concepts like there are aspects like how do you describe something orally, how do you write simple sentences, how do you comprehend the information you have got. So these kind of losses, these kind of gaps, skill gaps, were found in the children when the study was conducted. Now, as I come to the way forward here, I would like to ask, I'd like to take a pause here, and I'll stop sharing my screen before. The first video, the video which I sent you, which in which Arvind Gupta, Mr. Arvind Gupta was talking about how children learn. So it's as simple as that. Children learn in such simple ways. And then I sent you a video which spoke about there was a research, the study which said that how the learning loss has impacted children. And what is it? It is not only the academic loss, it is in terms of their social development, their understanding of the concepts, their ability to just be. So this is something which will affect their future learning as well. And that is why we as educators, we need to understand very, very clearly, we need to be very prepared and planned in our strategies so that we can meet their learning needs, we can serve that environment to our children. Before we move ahead, I would like to discuss that what is the learning ecosystem of the children. The current learning ecosystem is dominant by the digital aspect. So we have now moved, we have resorted to hybrid learning. There is a combination of virtual classrooms and the offline classes, maybe where we are sending videos, materials to children to learn. So the child has to now deal with the learning outcomes, the child has to deal with the context, and then the technology. The technology where they need to learn to navigate, how they have to navigate, what should they do. And we as educators, we also have to equip ourselves to this particular, the new mode of teaching and learning. So the ecosystem for the children comprises of us along with the technology now. Uh, so here in this image, if you see that, it tells you that there are 5 types of learning needs which we have identified. that it has been identified by experts. It says that before the lockdown, the whatever learning happened before the lockdown, it was lost and it just become rusty, so they have forgotten what they learned. So that is why we need to reteach and we need to refresh on those areas. As we move ahead, during the lockdown, the teaching was a little shaky, it was missed, it was minimal, and for that to cover that up, we need to catch up on the teaching. We need to extend what we have taught, and we need to do it again for our children. So ideally, before we start the academic year, we know that we are, looking at the current state of affairs. It is looking at the current state of affairs, it looks like the next year also we may have to adapt the hybrid model of teaching. So before we start to do that, before we set out to plan ourselves, plan our curriculum, what are the three steps, what are the three measures we should be keeping in mind as teachers? Firstly, the subject teachers, they have to sit and they have to document the learning goals that were not met because of many reasons. So the subject, if I'm teaching English to class 1, I need to note down that yes, these are the learning goals which we couldn't meet. The children have not expertised on these. They have not mastered those skills yet. Then I need to sit with the subject teacher of the English teacher of class 2, and then need to understand that class 2, what are the skill sets they require in class 2, and together we need to collaborate, and then finally we need to make a list of those learning areas, and we need to make those skills which probably need a revisitation. So when the collaboration between the teachers across grade level will happen, we will finally have a list of goals, a list of areas and skills which we need to take forward in the next class. And then we need to identify how we will place them into the curriculum. We need to adapt our pedagogies to online learning, So when I say pedagogies is how you will decide to be, what are the methods, what is the line of thought you will be having when you start designing your lesson plans. So the first thing is that we have to, sorry, here I just missed a slide. Yes, we have to set realistic expectations from the online learning that is going to take place for our children, which we are going to plan. We have to be sure that they are also limited in their environment. The resources may be limited. So we have to be exactly precise when we convey it to them. So they know that these are the learning outcomes they have to achieve. Very realistic outcomes we have to set for our children. We need to communicate regularly, So communication here is not only between the teacher and the children. The communication will be between the teacher and the parent. It will be with between one teacher to the other teacher. So this communication has to be kept revived. We have to do that regularly again and again. Maintain focus on learning objectives. So again, as thorough, as planned and as prepared we are in the planning, it will make us more equipped. It will make things easier for us to transact the curriculum, transact our syllabus to the children. So we have to maintain the focus in that. We have to have a pathway which is very clearly charted for our children. Test content and technology before deployment. So, we have to ensure that the tools, the educational tools which we are using, we have to be familiar with those tools. Then we need to make our children familiar with those tools so that, they can navigate easily and that much time is not lost in trying to learn, and we can focus on the lessons or focus on the learning rather than spending time on trying to navigate the technology. So before we set out, we need to test and be prepared with that. Appreciate new opportunities. So this is a time where we need to plan new activities. We need to be creative. We have to innovate of how we can engage children in the during the online class, during the section where we club together. How can we think of new activities which will keep them engaged, which will want them to come again and again for our classes. This image, it shows us the instructions. Now here I'm talking very specifically in an online setup, in a virtual setup, in a hybrid learning model. How do you give specific instructions to children? So first we set the purpose, that what is the context of the concept, what are we learning today, and why are we learning what we are learning today, we have to then draw their attention to what they have learned in the previous class. So normally we revise before we start a new concept in a class. We normally take a revision of what has been taught, so it has to happen in a sequence, and then we have to introduce the new concept. When we introduce the new concept, it's the teacher first. The teachers will do it, and he will demonstrate the concept, he will do the activity for the children. Then it has to be together. So the teacher does the activity together, and the children do it simultaneously. So it starts from I do to we do, and then it's you do. So then the children do it, and that is where we as teachers get to observe and assess the children as to how they are doing the activity. Were we able to convey the concept to the children? Did they comprehend it like that or not? So it starts with the I do, we do, and you do. And then we come back to the objective which we set out in the beginning of the lesson. And finally, we give them enough opportunities, ample opportunities to practice and apply those concepts individually. So this is a set of specific instructions which we need to give to the children. We need to provide it to them during a hybrid setup. Again, now it is not going to be either a synchronous mode or an asynchronous mode, So as what it looks ahead, it is going to be a combination of both. So children will get opportunities. By synchronous, I mean it's the face-to-face where children get to see the teacher, interact with the teacher, and that's the online class. The asynchronous is when you send the materials home, you send them videos home, and you tell them that, you learn, you go through the lesson, and then we do it again. So this is the combination which has to occur. We have to plan for a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning. Now, this is an example of, I've taken of, for example, if we take any topic which we want to deliver in the class, and we divide it, we plan our lessons into a synchronous and an asynchronous delivery mode, the instruction mode. So for synchronous, it is when you're sitting with your children, you're getting a time to interact with them. It may be less, because looking at how we are proceeding, we may not get, of course, for young children, 35-40 minutes is the most suitable time to keep them engaged in an online platform. So during that 30-40 minutes, we want to connect with them. We want to interact with them. We want them to speak to us, and even the learn. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for pointing it out. Right. So, before we kind of come down to a discussion, to a question and answer, I have listed down a few key takeaways in terms of planning ahead. What is it that we can keep in mind when we plan ahead, we plan the next academic year for our children? The first one on my list is that we have to understand, we have to accept that the role of the children, the learner, has changed now. Students are driving their own learning. Our children are driving, they have to decide how they learn. They are taking ownership of their learning. So as teachers, we have to be acceptable. We have to accept the fact that now we are partners in the learning with them. And we have to teach them how to learn rather than what to learn. So the skills is what we need to be looking at for our children. The second is we have to have an agile and innovative approach, So we need to understand that a group of children in our class, they will all learn in many different ways. Children have various ways of learning, and the model, the plan which we have, it should meet each learner type. So if there is a auditory learner in the class, our plan we have to have creative activities that will meet their requirement. If we have a child who learns visually, we need to have enough opportunities for that. If we have kinesthetic learners, we need to have enough opportunities for that. So now we need to understand, we need to club, be creative, and do hands-on activities. It's like where children are able to express themselves. As it is in the current situation they are in, they're not getting enough opportunities. So our approach has to be extremely innovative and flexible, at a point where we realize that some concept, our delivery, our method of delivery is not engaging the children, then we have to be agile and we have to quickly customize and readapt the whole thing and come up with something fresh. That is the second takeaway. Personalized learning is the third takeaway. I feel that we have to adjust to each student's pace and style of learning. So when I say personalized learning, here is the role of the teacher, because we know we are experts in understanding our children. We understand them by the way they talk to us, by the expression they give us. Even on a virtual mode, if a child has a certain expression, we know exactly what the child is feeling, or what is he trying to reflect on. So that empowers us to plan the learning of our children extremely one-on-one and personalize it for them. So again, practically, how do we do it? It may not be possible for us to have a personalized setup in terms of concepts or assessments, but yes, we can give personalized learning to children when we are at the planning stage itself. So think of activities which will cover all kind of learners. In the planning stage only, we have to consider the personalized learning. Teacher's role will change. So yes, it has already changed. You will all agree with me on that. We have already taken the role of a mentor. We have become their friend. We were always connecting with our children, but now we are also partners in learning with them. So they used to say we are partners in crime. So now we are partners in learning with our children. So every mischief, every plan they have, we are a part of it, and we have to stick to it. So instead of just downloading them with information, we are now at a stage where we are
poetry competition.
learning with our children. Exactly, we are learning with them side by side, and we have to share it with them. We have to tell them that yes, we are also learning with you. Let's do it together.
अजून दाब मोठी करतो.
Parents' role is going to change. So, we have to understand, we have to groom the parents also. We have to tell the parents, we have to empower them, we have to enlighten them, and we have to tell them that, now you are also playing a very important role in your child's learning, because they are co-creators of knowledge with us. We are sitting with our children. They are at home. We are delivering to them through a virtual platform. We need to take the parents on our side. We need to collaborate with them and tell them that how you need to deliver. Of course, as an educator, our role in building this loop, the child, the teacher, and the parent, it has to go hand in hand. And only when the teacher and the parent collaborate, then the child, the learner, will thrive in the space. So educating the parents about their role is also going to be a very important part of our role. The way we define and measure performance is going to change. So now we are not going to be giving them 20 on 40 or A B grade or things like that. So now we have to understand that the measure of their learning will depend on their understanding of the concept rather than their ability to duplicate content. So we have to be very mindful as to how we devise those strategies. What are those strategies? Where will we group them? Where will we assess them? Children will learn together. Peer-to-peer learning will happen. Therefore, peer-to-peer assessment will happen. So one child will automatically, when they are discussing, they'll say, if they fall back on something, the other child will extend support. That happens very naturally when children work together. So this is the kind of assessment, and we will be, as educators, we have to step back and observe this kind of learning happening, taking place, based on which we will be then measuring their performance. The final takeaway, which we cannot miss at all and we cannot overlook, is the focus on their social curriculum. As educators, we have to have a certain
पहले नेट नहीं था,
time
अब
slot.
लाइट नहीं है. नहीं, दोनों नहीं है.
We have to have a certain space where we have kept for our children, where we are able to focus on their social and emotional growth, because children are cooped in the house. They
कहाँ
are,
सामान देख रहे थे, लेना ही नहीं था तो.
please give me a minute, I think I need to,
रख क्या है, मतलब क्या होता है? बहुत भीड़ हो.
yes. So we need to understand that the social environment, the emotional environment of our children is equally important. We have to cater to that growth, the development, And we have to provide opportunities in our plans, in our curriculum, where we can support their emotional growth also. So for example, it is not only going to be about concepts and learning and abilities in terms of academic growth. It will also be about their skills, about how they can express themselves, about what are their thoughts, what is it that they would like to share with us, how do they understand the environment, what do they feel, is there a is there a connect between the teacher and the child. So all these takeaways, the 7 takeaways which I just shared with you, are going to be something that will help us at the planning, where we sit together, and when we plan the next academic year, we have to sit and comprehend, we have to keep a tab on all these skill sets which make the learning conducive for our children. And hopefully the next academic year, which is about to start, after the holidays, will make us more prepared, and it will enable us to provide children with those opportunities and engagements, so that the loss which we feel the children have have come to, is minimized, and it is not carried forward for the children. Uh, so, finally, after all this, it's just time to start. We have to start our work together. We have to understand that as teachers, we are not alone in it. There are teachers worldwide who are dealing with the same issues. So we have to feel trusted. We have to understand that we have to give ourselves a lot of credit, a lot of appreciation, a lot of self care and love, so that we understand that there's a whole lot of expectations from us as teachers. Our children are looking at us, to make learning fun for them, to make learning meaningful for them. So we need to prepare ourselves thoroughly. And of course, we need to remember that we are not alone in this. There's a whole fraternity of teachers. We're all together, and we should not shy away from asking for help or for any kind of feedback if it is required. Finally, personally, I feel that it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. So now is the time where we build children, strong children, so that in the future, when they live their lives, or when they are having to deal with real life situations, where they're making decisions, where they have to get jobs, we have already built them strong enough to deal with the situation, whatever it is. And since we are a part of history, we are making history right now, and we will be judged. Nelson Mandela to quote that history will judge us by the difference we make in the everyday lives of our children. So we have to understand that there's we have been thrust upon a very important role right now, and in the future, many years down the line, we will be remembered. And ourselves, when we think, we will reflect back on the pandemic year, and we will say that, oh yes, we rose to the occasion, we learned new skills, and we were able to deliver what was expected, what was the right thing for our children during that time. I will thank you for your time now.